Good morning, guys. I'm just here to say hello and see if I could catch you when you weren't watching. So, anyway, I'm Jenny and I'm from Masterteach, and I thought I might make a video today about teachers who are coming into New Zealand from other countries and what to expect. So, I can't make that in one video. That's not a one video job, but what should your approach be? Maybe that might be a good way of looking at it. You'll get, as compared to living in other countries, being in international schools, etc., it's very different. You will have to be quite self-sufficient, but then Kiwis are very friendly and usually very helpful, and I think you'll find your schools are also going to be helpful in that way as well. So I think that you shouldn't have too many problems with that. I don't know who you're being recruited through, and that's an important issue. It's also going to be really important that you've asked a lot of questions about what will be expected of you as a teacher in New Zealand, because it is very different to almost all the other countries I've worked in. We have a long history of innovation in New Zealand, and we still have that, but it's a little bit different to what it used to be. It's not as open as it used to be, but having said that, it is very inclusive, very strength-based for children. Those are the intentions. And all of those things are still in progress. They haven't actually, I don't suppose anything ever stays, ever sort of solidifies or is set in concrete. But having said that, I will say that I do think that you will find a lot of differences, especially if you're coming out of the British curriculum. And if you're coming out of any curriculum that is actually a little bit less culturally based, because our curriculum is culturally based, and you have to remember that we have a treaty with the Maori people in New Zealand, which we're very proud of, and we try to uphold. So your very first thing that you should do probably is to understand the treaty and what our obligations are as part of our treaty obligations. Now, when I talk about we have a treaty, I'm just talking about my relatives, actually. My great-grandfather came here in 1845 and was on the one of the earliest ships into the harbour in Russell. He came and he fought with Despard against the Maori at Ruapekapeka, which was one of our battlegrounds. And I'm quite proud to say that he took a musket ball in the backside for it. I don't know which direction he was going in, but you don't get a musket ball in the backside going front on, do you? So anyway, he was a veterinary surgeon, and I think that he came originally from a Quaker family. Actually came from Sudeley Castle in Gloucestershire, I think it is. So that's the story about that. So when I'm talking about we, I'm specifically talking about me. So I feel that I have a treaty obligation because my grandfather was there when the treaty was signed, my great-grandfather. And many of the Maori who signed that treaty couldn't speak any English, couldn't obviously read, and had very little understanding of what it was they were signing away. Now, I came across the same sorts of things in other countries as well. I've come across that in Papua New Guinea, and I've come across it in other places. So we have responsibility. We need to take responsibility for what has not been a very honest, straightforward way to assimilate into a country that was not ours, that we invaded. All right, so. Okay, there are lots of opinions about that. Okay, so you're coming in here to teach, and what are you going to teach, and which attitudes are you going to bring with you, and which ones might be offensive, and which ones might actually not fit with the treaty. So you need to be aware of all of those things. I'll do a video that unpacks a bit more of the treaty if you'd like that, because I actually think that the treaty is is so important to New Zealand, and we are so protective of it now that some people would say we're too protective of it, but we're so protective of it now that we need it to succeed, and we need everybody who comes into this country to respect it. Okay, so those are a few of the things that you need to know. There are cultural things that you need to know. I'm going to give you a piece of advice, because this is something that I've talked to a lot of people about recently. I've even been talking to the NZDI about it, actually, to be honest. And what I'm hearing, NZDI is our union, what I'm hearing is that we do have a lot of people coming in who are not really understanding the ways that we do things. Now, if this country has been operating the way it has, and we have been so isolated for so long from so many other people, then we have adapted in various ways to the culture of the Maori people. Whether they know it or not, we have. There are some things about us that we really value. Now, one of those things is awhi, or manakitanga, and we're talking about our sharing of compassion and also about people's pride in themselves, and about how you build mana in people. So mana is respect. How do you build someone else's respect? Not your own. How do you build someone else's respect? If you build someone else's respect, you also build your own. So it's very important to understand all of those things. There are a lot of connected things there. So I think in a way it's easier to get this from me, because I'm Pakeha. I'm European New Zealander, and easier to understand coming from me in some ways than it is to get it coming from Maori, because actually we are the ones who have to understand. And if you know that I've understood, then, and I accept this, maybe you can come a little bit towards me and actually understand that that's how you can be successful in New Zealand. So things that you need to know are the ways of treating each other. What is respectful and what isn't respectful? Well, here's number one. If you've got a child in your classroom who is not behaving particularly well, don't single them out and yell at them across the room. In fact, don't single them out at all if possible, and certainly not publicly. Any public discipline of anyone in New Zealand, and I don't care if it's Maori or it's Pakeha, anything which involves disciplining someone in a public forum must not happen. It is totally culturally insensitive. And it is not just Maori culturally insensitive, it is New Zealand cultural, totally insensitive. So you don't stand in a doorway and yell across a room at a kid on the other side of the room. And you certainly never do that to an adult. If you did it to an adult in New Zealand, you will be really slavered. In the end, one way or another, you would get slavered. So very important that you understand that those are things you don't do. They're just rude. Okay? It's rude also to encroach on someone's mana. And it's also quite rude to push your own mana. So those things are things that we don't do. We see those things as being usurping of someone else's position. And we don't do that. We know whose turn it is. And we back off. And we let people take their turn. So there's more mana for you and more respect and more chance of you succeeding if you let other people go first. Actually, we are extremely polite and courteous, and we are not rude, generally not. You will find that the Maori people here, and I'll tell you who else is like this, is our Pacific Islands people. They are very well-mannered people. We really, really value courtesy, respect. We respect our older people. We respect people with a lot of experience. We We don't tell them they're wrong. We might talk to them about it and have conversations. We might set up situations where they're exposed to stuff, but we do not destroy their mana. So very important thing to know when you're coming to New Zealand. Now, I could go on about this, and I guess I'm going to talk about one more subject, and then I'm going to stop, and I will put another video together for the next one. But the little bit that I want to bring with you now is, how do you bring your own culture into this country? Okay, so you bring it in slowly, and you think very hard about why you left your own country, and you think about what's worth bringing and what's worth leaving behind. You think about what you want to bring in publicly and what you just want to share with your own family. You think about the best things that you can do. Now, recently I've been reading about the Mayflower, for example, and the people who went into Massachusetts, I think it was, or Cape Cod. Anyway, wherever in the States, and Pennsylvania, obviously, and they had to learn to survive. They had been on the ships way too long, much longer than they thought. They ran out of food. 50% of them died. And at that point, they had to make a decision about what they were going to do about the people nearby. Now, they did have guns. They could have gone out and shot people and caused wars and all sorts of things. And the local people, the native American Indian people nearby, they also had to think about what they were going to do, because they could have caused wars, etc. Well, it so happened that they shared their wisdom and their skills, and they knuckled down and they worked together and they built something that was acceptable to both lots of people. And when you're coming to New Zealand, that's the attitude you've got to take. You're bringing something in, but it's not better. You don't know that it's better. What you know is that it's what you think is good. But you haven't had a chance to try it out, or try out what's here, or see anything different. Does it fit? Does it fit with the mindset? And I suggest to you, some people are bringing in a mindset that doesn't fit. And they need to move over and watch for a while. So there's my advice to you, and I'm going to leave it at the end of this. When you come to a new country, you need to stand back and watch for a long time. Somebody asked me a few months back, how long does it take to become a New Zealander? Well, you can come into the country, but unfortunately, and I'm still in that position because 1845 is when my family came, you might not be a New Zealander until you actually understand the culture. And that's not just the words. That means what the culture means, how it operates, how you interact with people. So I'm going to say to you, when you go to another country, learn about the culture, be an observer, just sit back and watch for a while. And don't get in there with your own agenda. You might change your opinion. You may love what's there, but it might take you a while to find it. So that's my my video for today, and I hope you enjoy just pacing out slowly. See you later.